Have you ever felt it? That quiet intuition, the fragile electric sense that something massive is happening just under the surface? I feel it too, and I can tell you, the world of blockchain, of interconnected payments, is humming with change. The old ways, the silent, invisible arteries of money and power that thread through our lives, are reaching a limit. Every institution, from the smallest remittance platform fluttering at the edge of a forgotten border town, to the monumental central banks moving tides of wealth, is standing at a crossroads. The question burning in every office, echoing in every late-night meeting: what infrastructure will we trust with our future? This is Crypto Sensei. Welcome to Crypto 101 Central, where we are not just witnesses to history, but storytellers marching with it. Before we dive deep, pause with me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. It's as if we are drawing a map across the unknown, and you are my fellow explorer. Hit the bell. Stay connected to every tremor and breakthrough that ripples through this space. Let me pause and breathe with you, because what I'm about to describe isn't just another blockchain project, but an entire ecosystem blooming, quietly, insistently, like green shoots pushing through concrete. There's something magical about watching infrastructure take shape, layer by layer, day after day, in the background while the headlines scream about ripples and crashes, gains and losses. But underneath it all, real bridges are being built. Why does the XRP Ledger stand out, almost glowing among its countless rivals? Not because it shouts the loudest, but because it threads the fragments together. Imagine this. Central banks and digital currencies, payment apps and real estate platforms, fintech dreams and legacy networks, all speaking the same language finally. Like rivers converging toward an unseen ocean, their waters mingling. Ripple's technology can do what most chains only dream of. It weaves these separated currents into one tapestry. The world, for all its distance, begins to close in. Picture payment processors connecting, old-world remittance companies syncing with FX trading venues, an endless dance between brokers, banks, exchanges, centralized, decentralized, merchants and governments, apps and markets. That vision, sometimes it seems almost poetic, almost utopian. But it's not. It's infrastructure, wrenching itself into being in the hard hours of the night, under the unblinking glow of code and ambition. People always ask, how does it all connect? How do you shape a web that holds everything? I found a video, edited by Professor Ripple Effect, that caught this vision. Credit where it's due. I watched over and over as lines and icons flickered together, until, suddenly, the abstraction became reality. If you find value here, let yourself press like, support this story, as it becomes yours as well. There's always noise about the best chain. Pick a coin, pick a network, pick a future, and fight for it. But that's a mirage. The real step isn't to force a decision at the threshold. It's to invite banks and brokers and all of us to step through a new kind of front door. A wallet that reaches out and entwines them all. All the chains, every type of money, every distant network. Problem, raw and simple. These worlds don't talk to each other. Cryptocurrencies glitter, but you can't spend them unless the other person sees their worth. Blockchains by themselves are just islands, majestic yet marooned. What we need is a way to leap across the gaps, like the internet does with data. We must do with value. Not just connections, but a seamless choreography, a ritual of trust and translation. Enter Interledger. Think of it as a diplomatic language for money. Born from Ripple's vision, stewarded by a global community, it isn't just a protocol. It's a bridge written in open code. Its architecture as public, as poetry, as shared, as hope. Interledger doesn't pick favorites. Instead, it lays roads where others see walls. Even those who once saw Ripple as a rival more often now join than fight, the old hostilities fading in the sun of something bigger than any one company or project. There's fear too, always in the old guard. Swift, the gray-bearded emperor of bank transfers, eyes the newcomers with suspicion, but underneath, you sense a nervous curiosity. Even Swift must adapt. Closed systems are only fortresses until progress renders them isolated, redundant. That's why, somewhere in those shadowed boardrooms, perhaps Swift is already working with Ripple. Perhaps already hands are shaking. Agreements are being woven out of secrecy and necessity. Here, too, is GitHub, a platform and wallet, a merchant of trust, quietly adding piece after piece to the puzzle. Hosted ledgers, bridges connecting the seas of fiat and crypto. Cloud services, identity, encrypted data, every inch checked and rechecked for security. Its purpose isn't to merely dazzle with technology, but to hold the hands of old and new money alike, to gather them in one hearth. It stands quietly, yet its foundations stretch wider than most see. Imagine SEPA, the single euro payments area. For 5,000 banks, connected like constellations across Europe, all sending and receiving as though borders were just stories. Now, in 2026, the power isn't in just connecting banks, but connecting their dreams, their obligations, their risks, their hopes for tomorrow. To wallets, to payment rails, to new currencies and identities. It's all leading towards something grander, the perfect coexistence of Web3 and TradFi. Decentralized zeal and centuries-old discipline, not one erasing the other, but meeting, intertwining, each becoming richer for the contact. Ripple, with its XRP, not conquering, but connecting. Liquidity bridge, a router of trust, humming quietly underneath the world like the heart under the ribs. Pause for a moment. If you've made it this far, if any glimmer of this vision calls to you, let your presence be known. Drop a like, share your voice in the comments below. Sometimes, I wonder what each of us might build if we realized how the world is changing beneath our feet. I once read, Ripple has reinvented correspondent banking. There is daring in that statement. Correspondent banking, after all, is the ghost in the machine, the unbroken line from your paycheck to a rice farmer in Bhutan, from a startup in Mumbai to a fintech in Sao Paulo. Through all these corridors flows the question, how do we trust, truly trust, these networks we build, these protocols we unleash? Ripple is now a licensed bank. It sits at tables with 40 regulators, speaks in backrooms with central banks, builds infrastructure not just for profit, but for promise. It is not an accident. To bring the future, you must court the old lions, learn their dances, study their fears. There's always a temptation, when forging something new, to rush. The world resists. Financial institutions are ponderous beasts. They move billions, even trillions, with hands trained to be cautious. With eyes hardened by 1,000 recessions, they do not trust quickly. For every new chain, for every flash of revolutionary tech, there are years of slow sandboxing, of trial, error, breakthrough, acceptance. These roots run deep. Ripple, XRP, and Interledger stopped waiting in line. They built the house and kept the lamp burning. Sometimes I think we're witnessing the forging of a global operating system. Not of code, but of confidence. The XRP Ledger is the quiet heartbeat at the center, pulsing liquidity and compliance, drawing the nervous energy of regulation, the stark hum of innovation. Institutional-grade stablecoins, cross-chain bridges, every new amendment becomes another layer, another promise tethered to this living tapestry. Singapore, Brazil, Australia, more stablecoins joining the movement. Ripple partners not as lords, but as pilgrims, each bringing new tools. Custody integrations, regulatory alignments, global compliance. The world isn't picking winners anymore. It's building a web where winners are merely those who dare to connect. And with every sunrise, new features come alive. Permissioned decentralized exchanges for those who demand both openness and control. Tokenized assets blooming on Ledger. Amendments voted on, debated, implemented, until they become the quiet backbone of the future global financial system. Bhutan, its revolution almost silent, weaves Ripple at the core of its digital currency, identity, retail payments. India's railways of value already reaching into those mountains, Ripple's instruments harmonizing with existing payment rails. And as real-world assets multiply on Ledger from 25 million to over 1.5 billion and beyond, soon perhaps even 10 billion, the pace never slows. More and more of the world's value is finding its way into this shared, accountable, interoperable space. We stand not just in front of mass adoption. It is happening right now, quietly, line by line, wallet by wallet, asset by asset. As I speak, XRP is not just another token. It is the breath between ledgers, the silent glue, the connective tissue that allows the impossible to become everyday. Every day, more sovereigns, more pioneers, more institutions peel away from their isolation, drawn toward the promise of trust made real. Sometimes, when the headlines fade, I close my eyes and imagine the flow, like an endless network of rivers, carrying not just value, but possibility. If you feel that deep inside, I invite you, tell me what you see. The future is not something we inherit. It's something we build, word after word, code after code, connection after connection. Leave a comment, let me know what resonates. Help others see the bridge forming beneath our feet. Before you go, subscribe. Let yourself belong to this journey. Click the bell. Don't miss the waves as they break. And if you hunger for more, wander through the other videos waiting here, deeper into the story that is becoming ours. I'm Crypto Sensei, and together, step by step, we are learning not just what crypto is, but what it can mean. Thank you. See you on the next part of the journey.